Nachos Amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a bunch of friends gather together to share music with each other, an album at a time. You know how it is. Probably more than I know how it is. I'm Petey Ray of Your Man With No Plan. Here with me is my team, my crew, my squad. We've got David.
Ha cha 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 cha. Delicious.
We've got Drew.
Huh? Oh, hey. What's going on?
And for now, we're gonna get into this. Now we're back in saddle. Brett is not gonna be with us for the near future, as he's got life stuff that's way more important than this dumb show.
Way more important.
Yeah. So he's gonna go take care of that. In the meantime, we're gonna probably cycle in some guests and people that are, do things here and there before we decide on the kind of the semi-permanent, not really permanent occupant of the fourth chair. But we have for at least for a few times.
I might leave again. I might leave and Patrick might come back.
Yeah,
right.
Who knows? We'll see. But for the time being, at least for these few episodes, we're gonna have returning once again a fantastic guest, now a kind of like a part of our rotating chairs. We got Mike, the serial sensei. How you doing, Mike?
Doing good. I'm the substitute teacher for this evening.
Yes. We won't shoot spitballs at you. We promise.
Are we gonna watch a movie?
My name's Dave.
We might actually. We might watch a movie.
Pull out the projector.
Oh, is Bill Nye coming out?
In the meantime, we're going to be talking about music. We kind of like since we're doing kind of a bit of a reset and a bit of a redo. We'll start from the beginning, and we'll start with an album I've chosen. And it's going to be an interesting album. It's going to be back into the K-pop world. It's going to be by an artist by the name of Lee Hi. It was initially released digitally as 2 EPs. Then it was released physically as an album. That's why it's a little weird when you look it up. It's like 2 albums, and both of them are like mini albums, and there's a different order based on if it's the full album or the mini EPs. It's just a bunch of songs. There's a bunch of pop music, a bunch of soulful music. It's a bunch of R&B, kind of neo soul a little bit, very K-pop tinged, very much vocal focused. Lee Hi is a fantastic singer, and she has a very cool, unique.
You just reviewed the whole album. You just did it. You just did it all right there.
Yes, there you go. It's a cool album, and definitely looking forward to seeing what you guys think of it. Let's talk about what your expectations were. I'll start with David. David, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Petey Ray, first of all, I want to admit that I appreciated the wordplay in the album title Seoulite. One, the fact that it has to do with the city in South Korea, Seoul, she being a Seoulite. And also, this album definitely had a Seoulite feel. And my expectation coming in was really not a whole lot different from the other K-pop albums that I've heard since joining the Record Breakers podcast. A lot of R&B influence and at least some above average vocalists. And that's pretty much what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Well, knowing you and your penchant for a K-pop as it is, I was expecting some really, really solid vocals with a pretty decent range at the very least, if not great range, and really well-produced music. Now, the type of music has varied a lot depending on the K-pop artists we've gotten here. So I didn't know what we were getting to as far as that goes, but I knew whatever we were getting into was going to be very well put together and very well produced with very great singing. And besides that, I was ready to take the plunge.
Mike, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I honestly didn't have much of an idea of what I was about to get into. I didn't Google the album. I just, you guys sent it to me. I looked it up on Spotify and I was like, Seoulite. I'm just trying to like piece together what this could be. So I'm like, okay, I see the Korean connection. And K-pop like kind of popped in my mind, but I've never listened to a K-pop album. And I was afraid that I was like, what if this is too pop? I'm not a big pop music fan. Yeah. So I was afraid that I wouldn't like this would be a painful listen. Luckily it wasn't. Yeah. Luckily I actually left this album with some good things.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's a cool album because it's comes out of a collaboration between Lehigh as the performer, Tableau of Epic High as the kind of the main creative force behind the wheel. Different collaborators contributing lyrics and songs and compositions. Obviously kind of recorded and produced over a period of time.
Lots of credits.
Yeah, lots of credits. On different songs, and we could talk about the different songs, but overall, a really nice. Still working well together as an album and as still kind of being tied together really well. This being produced by Tableau while he was still running the High Ground label under YG, and while he was still with YG, so it's very much partly his baby, and. It's cool because like this is an album. Lehigh finally releasing an album after like several years not of a hiatus, despite having pretty nice hits domestically. Even at just 15, 16 years old, and now finally releasing an album. Now at this point it was 2016, so she was 19 years old. 18, 19 years old. She's so young, but she has such a kind of like a soulful voice and such a full voice that really works.
I'm curious. I'm curious. In terms of my understanding of K-pop, I think what stands out the most about this album is Lehigh's voice, because she's not what I, or maybe the uninitiated, would expect from a typical K-pop singer. How is Lehigh standing on that side of the world? Like, is she, in terms of popularity, I guess is what I'm asking. Like, where is she?
She makes, for the most part, she is right in the wheelhouse of what a lot of the average Korean mainstream public likes, which is nice songs that you can play at a coffee shop, like coffee shop music. She has, it's hard to describe. I'm not the smartest, but she makes good, pleasant coffee shop music generally, and that fits well with for mainstream attention and for the digital charts. She doesn't. My brain's not working well. Yeah, I think for the most part, yeah. I think she makes good music that hits well with the mainstream public, and works well on as far as digital charts, if that makes sense. Right. But yeah, let's have you guys talk about this album musically. David, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes, elements that caught your attention?
This is probably the most retro-friendly K-pop album I've heard to date. I did not expect this to be as retro in so many ways as it was. There wasn't even as much of the typical 90s and early 2000s R&B that you hear in a lot of K-pop. That there's some kind of 90s indie pop in some ways. There's doo-wop. There is a lot of things on this album that may not necessarily be what you're hearing kids coming up with on their laptops in the year of our based God 2019.
Nobody's
But
flossing
the song,
this.
no. But it all works because it all centers around Lehi's voice. And I give credit to all 863 people that worked on this album for composing a number of songs around her voice that work really, really well.
Yeah. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, if there was an album to come back to, Jesus. This one to me is just absolutely dripping with like just style to it. Dave said it. There is a retroness to it almost. This could fit. I think personally, like there are tracks on here that could easily fit into that like mid to late 90s like R&B sort of feel to it. Like put that in regular radio rotation and the sound of it would just fit from like the vocal range that she was having to the actual production on the music part of it. I think it was really, really great. I mean, when I'm thinking in the back of my mind of names like female singers from the 90s and I'm thinking of Brandy and TLC, it's in a pretty good spot, in my opinion. Her voice was just, there was a smoothness to it that took me by surprise as well. Like the control in her range, I think was really, really, really great. There are definitely different styles here and there that get mixed into it. There's some like doo-wop Motown-y stuff in there. There is all sorts of different influence there. They have a rapper on part of it with a hip-hop beat. Like it's really, really good stuff. The difference in the two, because as you said, there was two different albums that sort of conjoined into one, like two smaller EPs. And the great thing about this is I didn't remember that until I sat down to write my notes, because yes, they are different. There is a different sound to them, but it all sort of fits in the same umbrella, if it were. So it really actually works well together.
Yeah. Mike, how would you describe this album musically?
Man, it has a lot of different vibes that I wasn't really expecting. Like I said, I was kind of afraid of this album being too poppy, and while it had pop elements, there was a lot more else going on that I feel like it was pop in terms of it. I think it was produced, like it was really clean sounding, but you got a lot of neo soul vibes, R&B vibes. Some tracks were a lot more upbeat, some were a little more down tempo. And I think one thing she did really well was, no matter like what kind of track it was, when they mentioned earlier, like some of the tracks, I think it was maybe about two of them, had kind of a hip hop feel to them. No matter what type of instrumental she was singing on, like she never sounds out of place, or like none of the varieties don't sound like a reach. Like she sounds extremely comfortable over pretty much every kind of track she was going over.
She sounds just as good live too. Watching her in South by Southwest. Yeah.
She has a really good voice, and I really enjoyed just the different kind of vibes. So some of these tracks, I think the song Blues had like a jazz lounge to it, lounge feel to it. Yeah, there are a lot of different kind of vibes. So it's on the production end, I was actually pretty impressed with the different amount of sounds. And even though the sounds are different, the album still flows really well together.
Yeah. Yeah, and we talk about some of the tracks. The Blues is a really cool track. I enjoy Fuck With Us. Just because like it has a cool like attitude, and it sounds really good. I mean, sounds good until Doki opens his mouth, then not so much. But then once he stops, then it sounds great again. If I could take any of the other rappers and put him and have him do what be in Doki's spot, that would have been great. But that song is fun. Official has a really cool feel to it. Incredible is actually a really great add-on to that. He contributes really well. I really like in a couple of tracks we have some production work from Dean, aka Dean Fluenza, which I just love as a name. Who's a singer, a great singer in his own right, but I love his production work here. And then of course, like the big one that's going to be the reason I brought this album is Breathe. Obviously, it's kind of the one that is remembered a lot because it was written and composed by somebody familiar to the show that we've talked about before. This man right here, Jonghyun, who kind of re-entered the charts after his unfortunate passing. But I've been. For the past year, I've been getting in my feelings over this song in particular. Just in general, it is such a beautiful song. It is such a intensely emotional song. It is so simple and lyrically as well. It's just a song like, just breathe. Take a deep breath. It's okay. You fucked up. You made a mistake. Everybody makes a mistake. Just breathe. And it is so beautiful in that, and she performs it in such a great. She has so much emotion in her voice. Like, this is before anything else. She has such a great emotion right at the end. Even if nothing else gets you, that end where's that Jongma Sugo Hesoyo. The way she kind of emphasizes that, like, you did a good job, you did good. It just gets you. If that any of that makes sense. But yeah, let's talk about some key tracks. David, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
I believe the song is translated as "Passing By." Mm-hmm. First of all, this was the song that really felt like a departure from the rest of the album, because this didn't feel like an R&B song or anything else. It didn't feel that way at all. This was the one that I said, this feels more like almost a Sarah McLachlan song. It has that laid back folk kind of vibe that again plays well in the coffee shops. Also, the song Blues, the chorus on this song really cemented who Lehigh reminded me of. And listening to this song and hearing the chorus, it was like Alicia Keys. It reminded me of Alicia Keys, and that's who this whole entire production reminded me of. And I think Mike said it really well, that it seems like she's so good as a vocalist, she can fit in any kind of style and doesn't seem out of place. And Alicia Keys was kind of the same way. Also, I believe this song is translated to "Do Not Look." The song had a little bit of a vibe that reminded me of Jamiroquai. And the rap verse on it wasn't all that terrible. I believe his name was Bobby,
Bobby.
He sounds kind of like Slim Shady, so I appreciated that. He had a little bit of Bobby. Slim Shady. So those were the songs. And also, I would say, yeah, those are the ones. And I'll say, I think also "Missing You" is the song where she really raises the song a level with her voice.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Hold My Hand. The doo-woppy Motown feel to that got me grooving. For sure on that one. I had it set up as sort of the daytime album cover, nighttime album cover as the split in my playlist. So that started me out, and I was like, okay, no, I can get into this. The range was there, like I said, the tonality of it all was all there. Dave's saying about Alicia Keys actually makes having that click in my head was like, oh yeah, no, I can definitely see that. Then Fuck With Us, like having her voice over like that hard sort of like hip hop beat was really cool. The rapper, take or leave.
I'm young and free.
It worked.
Be like, fuck you, just pay me. While you're being lazy.
It worked, but could have been better. But I'm not gonna hate on it too much. And then Missing You was sort of this like soft
Missing You, my love.
groove to sort of end it out. It had a little bit of the danciness to it you got with some of the other tracks, but it was still like soft enough to sort of like, for me, like I said, in the track list that I had sort of ended out, it was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. And it kind of, even the little like track they added into the full album, I'm Different, is pretty fun. Mike, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
World Tour was definitely one that grabbed me like right away. I think that was the opening track.
Yeah.
That instrumental just really reminded me of like a lot of the jazzy like hip hop instrumental albums that I listened to. Something like a Fat John, even New Jabez-ish a little bit. I kind of got that feel from it, and I thought it was kind of awesome. Like I said earlier, she fit right in over that beat. It was perfect. So I really love the vibe of that one. Fuck With Us was a standout just because I think compared to a lot of the rest of the album, that one had kind of an edge to it. Yeah, that one just, when I heard that song, I just pictured her like performing that and people in the crowd smoking cigarettes or something. Like it just gave me like that song had a certain edge to it. That
I'll credit Code Kunst with that, who she's been working with in spite of YG's
whereas passing by, people are sitting at the fireplace drinking tea, listening to Passing.
Yeah. But yeah.
I'd say my last standout was probably My Star. Something about that song just made me think of like, I could hear this as like the opening of a movie, and like the main character is like dancing while he's brushing his teeth, and like life is just really good. Yeah. It was just really, really good vibes from that track. And once again, showing that she can pull off
a montage.
Yeah, she can pull off so many different styles, because those 3 tracks I just named, none of them sound the same. Like, so yes, that my star was another standout.
Yeah, I think she performed a couple of songs she worked with. At least she's been working with Code Kunst on at South by Southwest. And I swear, YG, just get out of the way. Just let her put out that music. Just let them. They have it written. They have it made. Just let them.
There's a rant coming, folks. There's a rant coming.
I know there is. You can listen to more of my rants at howlyjuku.com or kpoppodcast.com. Well, let's talk about some conclusive thoughts. Let's bring it back around the horn. David, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
I've said before that I have reservations about the K-pop industry. And in some ways, Lehigh, and this album as a whole, pretty much puts the good and the bad on full display, because Lehigh is clearly extremely gifted. However, at the same time, it kind of reminds me back in the day when people would talk about Alicia Keys or Christina Aguilera, in the fact that they're good, but they might be too good, if you know what I mean. As singers, as vocalists, as performers, they might be too good for them to be mainstream smash hits, mega stars. Whereas usually with mega smash hits and mega superstars, they kind of fit in a little area in terms of vocal style and vocal ability. And Lehigh transcends that because her talent is way up here. She's well above average, and this album proves it. Like, her talent level is high, but I worry that it might be too high for people to know what to do with her.
Yeah, too many tools, too many. I can't. While holding all these plates, like too many directions they could go, and they decide on none. But that's the YG way, I guess. Drew, well, how would you conclude on this album as a whole?
I think, like a lot of the stuff we have seen from the South Korea, it was really, really well done. It was really a lot of fun to listen to. The vocals are there. Like I said, there's definitely a gift. There's definitely talent. There's definitely a craft to it that they have worked hard on. Are maybe some parts of the industry a little bit factory? Yeah. But some parts of it, some of the talent there, you can't deny the work that's been put in by the people on the ground. Like anything, some of the suits can sometimes muddy the waters, but the talent that's on display here, I think, speaks for itself.
Yeah. This album is a really great showcase of what Lehigh can do as vocalist, as a singer, as a performer. But she could do a lot of things. She is out there. She is making music.
She's on that groove.
Yeah, she's on that groove. And she can't do anything because she's, stuck with YG. And if it's not, it's so hard to comprehend why you can't let her.
What exactly is holding her back, Pete? There seems to be a disconnect with YG and Lehigh. So what exactly is the problem?
I don't know. The key, the music is made, the music is there. It's I don't know. I don't know why he can't just get out of the way. Like, it's just like we're still waiting. We've been waiting for forever on CL's supposed American debut, and the stuff she's supposedly been making. She has a manager in the States who has said in no uncertain words that he's kind of handcuffed by YG's inactivity.
Do you think that it might have to do with the fact that because Lehigh isn't a standard pop vocalist, that the record label really doesn't know what to do with it? You think that might be the case?
I don't know. We've had our ups and downs with YG as a label and as a company. And by the way, when we're talking about YG, we're not talking about the American rapper. I always forget. We're talking about young YG Entertainment.
YG being ahead of this project would be crazy.
YG Entertainment, aka the label whose CEO is Young Hyun Suk, who is one of the boys in the eponymous Sateji and the Boys, aka the group that changed K-pop forever by making a third-rate imitation of Cypress Hill track sometime in the early 90s.
Was it about weed?
No, it certainly was not about weed. This is
definitely Korea. Not in no, not in Korea. No,
that's why I was confused. I was like, most of Cypress Hill's music is about weed.
Yeah, that's why it was a third-rate imitation of a Cypress Hill track.
Fair.
But I don't know. I can't quite summarize it in a way that makes sense.
And in a way that doesn't make sense.
I don't know. YG is a scumbag. Papa YG is a gremlin-faced scumbag who manipulated his wife into dating him. Who has so much tea ready to be spilled on him. I guarantee it. There's so many people waiting to spill tea on YG. As a person, young Suck, young PD, I look forward to the day. They used to be the company that we were such a big fan of over at Harajuku, because of the artists that they produced, because they had that kind of more of a hip hop flavor, because they had something that was a little bit more familiar in the K-pop landscape. But man, I almost feel like I feel so many of the same ways about Yang Suck, aka Papa YG, that I do about Vince McMahon in so many ways. And that is just not even funny. Like
that says a lot.
Yeah.
really does.
That says a whole lot.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So that's where I'm gonna leave it. Like,
the story about we'll get into it.
Yeah. That being said, all right. That's my conclusion on this album as a whole. Now let's get to the haiku reviews. Our main event of the evening, what we've all been waiting for, our haiku reviews, where we kind of all sum it all up in poetic form. Though it's funny, I realized I didn't check if everyone had their haikus ready, but hopefully y'all do, or at least got one together in time. David, what is your haiku?
Lehi's talent shines, makes a safe batch of songs work. She transcends language.
Drew, what is your haiku?
Glad to be back here with another great album. Getting back to it.
Mike, what is your haiku?
Do not have one, but I didn't get to give my conclusive thoughts, so that can replace my haiku.
Okay, sorry, I got lost in it.
That's fine. I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh,
go ahead, Mike. Oh. Yeah.
Go ahead. Quick conclusive thoughts. For my this was my first dive into a K-pop album ever, and it went a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. Really solid production, very clean. Love the vocals. This was it was an overall good experience. If I had to give one critique or one thing that I can't say really bothered me, just like one small critique, I did feel like while I was listening to this, I never really hit like a super high point. Like it started off and I was like, oh, this is good. And then I just kind of I never really, I was waiting for a moment to kind of maybe like blow me away. Not saying this is a bad album, but I feel like I never really hit a high point. It just kind of cruised all the way through.
Yeah.
But other than that, really, really solid album.
That will count, I guess. Sorry about that.
ED or 575.
Yes. My haiku. A soulful voice shines bright in rare escape from dungeon. Set her free, YG. Set her free. All right. Those are our thoughts on Lehi's Seoulite. You can, of course, check it out on our Spotify playlists. Play Record Breakers, the home game. Follow along at home. Do your due diligence and your due diligence, as it were. On that Spotify playlist will be presumably next week's record. Next week's album is going to be provided by, I believe, David. David, what do you got for us next time?
I will be bringing the brand new album from the band Strawberry Girls, and the album is entitled Italian Ghosts.
Yes. So look forward to that discussion.
Absolutely no context whatsoever.
Exactly. Look forward to that next week. But that is next week, and this is this week. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. David is at Call Me DJM. Drew is at X2X. Mike is at Serial Sensei. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube. On other places. Find us. Like, share, subscribe. Give us reviews. Give us feedback. Let us know what you think. But until next time, hasta los huevos.
Beans and disease, and give us the 5 stars.
Toodaloo.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.